So now I'm going to preface this video by saying, of course, on paper, the iPhone 12 Pro Max, everything that it has is going to be better than the 11 Pro Max. It's just how it is. It's an upgrade. So there's no doubt that when you compare them apples to apples, everything's going to be a little bit bumped on the 12 Pro Max. But even though on paper it looks like it's a lot, when you bring it out into the real world, you'll see that it's a different story. So right off the bat, other than the obvious differences, the overall new design of the iPhone 12 Pro Max is going to be a lot squarer, a lot boxier, and we do have a larger display, 6.7 inches. It's still a Super Retina XDR display. Ironically, the 6.7 inches is only 0.2 inches bigger than the 11 Pro Max, but it feels physically bigger than the 11 Pro Max. I think it has a lot to do with the squarer, boxier design, no rounded corners. The screen kind of just sits flat on this phone, and it makes the phone itself feels wider and the screen itself feel a lot bigger. If you were someone who thought the 11 Pro Max was already too big, then this phone will probably feel even that much bigger to you. But from personal experience, the device itself, when I first got it, it was a little off-putting. The size itself gave me issues, and the squarer, boxier edges, it was a little bit uncomfortable for me to hold, but I kind of got used to it. I threw a case on this thing and I was basically good to go. Over time, I got used to the larger display and just kind of got immersed and really started enjoying the bigger, beautiful display. So I don't think it's really an issue for someone. You'll get used to the overall size of this device. Another big change from the 11 Pro Max to the 12 Pro Max is going to be the inclusion of the 5G technology. Now, I am fortunate enough to be in a position where I can take advantage of 5G. 5G is readily available in my area, and I get pretty good speeds in 5G, but it's not much of a difference than I was getting with the 4G LTE speeds. Definitely when you do some speed tests, you do see a drastic difference, but I'm not doing that much on my phone. Outside, I'm not uploading stuff, I'm not downloading stuff, I'm streaming music for the most part, or YouTube videos, and those things are usually pretty optimized to work on a 4G LTE signal. So I'm not taking advantage of that 5G ultra fast speed that's out there, but it's nice to know that it's available. But if you're not taking full advantage of it, it doesn't really play much of a factor in which device you choose. Now, of course, I think where you're going to see some of the biggest changes on paper over these two devices is going to be with the camera system. The 11 Pro Max had an ultra wide, a wide, and a telephoto, and the 12 Pro Max has the same camera setup, the ultra wide, wide, and telephoto, but with the inclusion of Dolby Vision HDR video recording up to 60 frames per second. There's also a bump in the wide camera to a 1.6 aperture versus a 1.8, and the telephoto goes up to a 2.2 versus a 2.0. You're also getting the inclusion of Apple RAW, which is a feature that just gives you the ability to shoot in RAW format, but it's not available as of yet. But if you are someone who's looking to edit your photos and get a better overall control of your color scheme, then this can definitely play a role in which device you choose, because the Apple RAW won't be available on anything but the 12 Pro Max at the moment. Being a person that doesn't take as many pictures as I guess most people do, or I don't take really professional pictures, I always approach a camera review from an average consumer perspective, which is what my channel and my videos are all about. So in that perspective, I didn't see much of a difference between the 11 Pro Max and the 12 Pro Max when it came down to taking pictures. I think both performed adequately in low light, both performed adequately when the light was overblown, color saturation, all that stuff for me looked pretty much close to both devices. At least there wasn't enough of a difference there to justify that one was particularly outperforming the other in drastic measures. But you can keep in mind that Apple Pro RAW will only be available on the iPhone 12 Pro Max. So if you are someone that's going to be completely focused on taking the best pictures and editing those pictures and either giving them to a client or uploading it to your social media, or you're an influencer or something of that nature that you need to shoot in that raw format so you have the best possible photo to edit, then the iPhone 12 Pro Max is probably going to be the one you go with. That's going to factor more into your decision. But if you're just an average consumer taking regular everyday pictures of moments and uploading them to your social media, I don't see one camera having the benefit over the other, which means that the 11 Pro Max and 12 Pro Max, for me anyway, are in the same stance. Maybe not on paper, but in the real world. I will say that with the inclusion of the LiDAR camera, the focusing on the 12 Pro Max is just a little bit better than the 11 Pro Max, and it's by milliseconds actually. So I think the 11 Pro Max took a couple of seconds longer to focus in on really close or really far images, but it's nothing that would justify spending money to upgrade over the 11 Pro Max. Now let's talk a little bit about the chipset. Here you have the A14 Bionic versus the A13 Bionic. So the A13 has the 3rd generation natural engine and the A14 has a next generation natural engine. Obviously the A14 is going to be faster. It's going to be a faster processor. It's going to have more GPU speed. It's going to be a bump in every category over the A13, but I didn't really see a huge improvement in my day-to-day use case. And it really is just because I'm using average things, an average phone user. I'm not editing videos. I'm not editing audio. I'm not doing all that processing on my mobile device that probably the A14 is going to be perfect for. But if you're just an average user watching YouTube videos, watching Hulu videos, streaming music, reading emails, texts, web surfing, reading articles, all that stuff, you're not going to see a big or if any jump on your day-to-day use case. It's not opening applications any faster. It's not loading pictures any faster. All of that seems pretty much the same to me. The iPhone 11 Pro Max was really optimized, and iOS is really optimized to these iPhones, and the processing power in the 11 Pro Max is fantastic, and the 12 Pro Max definitely has a faster processor, but in my day-to-day use case, I didn't see much of an overall difference. Now, I will preface this by saying that as time goes on, maybe the A14 chipset will handle updates from iOS or just additional patches a lot better that may eventually slow down the 11 Pro Max because it's on an older processor. But as of this moment, with the latest version of iOS, there really isn't any difference that would add to you buying one phone over the next. Now, you do get additional differences like the ceramic shield for the 4-time drop protection, the increased water resistance up to 60 millimeters for 30 minutes, and the compatibility with MagSafe that differentiates the iPhone 12 Pro Max from the 11 Pro Max. So in the end, overall, what's my general consensus? Having used both devices as an average consumer, from my perspective, there really isn't much of a difference between the two phones. There isn't a noticeable advantage in the bump of camera. There isn't a noticeable advantage over the bump in processing power when you're doing average day-to-day stuff. Sure, the inclusion of the 5G technology can play a factor if you're in a 5G area, but only if you're doing things that can take advantage of that 5G speeds, or if you're having issues with, I guess, 4G LTE, but if you are, then you're probably not going to get great 5G where you are anyway, so it really doesn't play much of a factor yet. If you do want to future-proof your phone, definitely go with the 5G version because 5G will begin to roll out and become the standard eventually over the next couple of years, but not yet. And if that's the case, then just hold off and get the 12 Pro Max next year at a cheaper price. My suggestion right now, if you're an average consumer coming from an older iPhone, the iPhone 11 Pro Max is a great option for you. You probably have to search a little bit for it because Apple's not offering it on its site anymore, but a lot of its partners are still carrying it, and you can probably get it at a lower price than the 12 Pro Max. It's going to do a lot of the things that the 12 Pro Max does, and even though the 12 Pro Max on paper looks like it's a vastly better phone, when you bring it into the real world use case, you're not going to see much of a difference if you're an average consumer using your phone to do average, normal, everyday things. So this is a case where, you know, last year's device is good enough. You really don't need the latest and greatest all the time.